imagine helping causes you care about get funding while you also make money, then grant writing is for you. You don't have to live in the United States. You don't have to have a grant writing degree or certification. You don't have to be an excellent writer that got all A's in college or in high school. You don't have to have English as your first language or be good at math to be a great grant writer. What is grant writing? So in the simplest form, grant writing is using a framework through writing and numbers to connect mission and money. Hi, my name is Holly Rustic, and I'm the CEO of the Freelance Grant Writer Academy and the Grant Professional Mentorship, which helps grant writers, where we help new and aspiring grant writers replace their full-time income on flexible hours writing grants from home and also growing and scaling businesses on part-time hours. So to talk about what it is, let's go back in history. So when I first started grant writing, while ago, I didn't even know what I was doing. This was back in 2005 after the Asian tsunami, and I was working in Indonesia, where the tsunami actually did some of the most damage. And I was hired under a very small startup non-government agency, an NGO, to help with after-school programs in the displaced tented areas where people had to pack their everything just in tents because they had lost their homes and they were moved inland and they were moved to villages combined together. And after developing relationships with people in this region, because I was actually boots on the ground, I was in the village, we were setting up, we were working with all the different kids from the different villages in these different tents or structures that we had built out as well. But what I heard repeatedly was that people there needed access to capital to rebuild their local businesses. And one of the people that I grew to know and love, they approached me and she asked if I could connect her with larger United Nations offices that had money available, but they couldn't tap into them because of the nuanced applications. And she had lost her ability to sell water and everything. She had a little shop with water and chips and gum and all of the things. And it was a little mobile one that she would be able to take around. But the tsunami had washed out all of her stock and it had washed out her mobile cart, right? So she just needed, as soon as she could get the money to get the capital to get all of her supplies and inventory again in the cart, she knew she could make money again, right? By selling them, then the business would operate. But the thing is that a lot of these United Nations, the larger nonprofits and NGOs that were there, they were very far removed, or they would just have minutes with boots on the ground where we were there every single day. I would ride my bike over there, where they were driving in armored cars. That was a difference in the separation. Of course, I was sure. I started writing the applications to get the money or to get her money to fund lost businesses. And I didn't even understand what I was doing at the time was writing grants. I literally just felt like I saw myself as a liaison between these larger organizations that had the money and with the people who needed the money. There was that blockage there of the ability to access the money because of these nuanced applications. It was in English, all of the things. So still to this day, helping my friend in Indonesia getting funding to restart her mobile shop is one of my favorite memories with writing grants. And it was literally $500. $500. The best $500 I feel like I've ever gotten. It was so much fun, right? And it was just such a huge impact for her. That was my first entry into grant writing. And it was just connecting mission and money. And it has stuck to me to this day. As a grant writer, you need to understand the need and the outcome an organization wants and to substantiate that need and outcome with narrative, budget, and sometimes attachments and all that sort of things, right? You need to submit those then to a funding source. So let's go ahead and based on my story here, let's talk about what that need was. So an organizational need example was my friend needed money for her stock of supplies and a new cart for selling items. And then to substantiate that need, she had lost it in a natural disaster, the Asian tsunami, So those were some of the needs. Her outcome or organizational outcome example was sustaining a business and increasing output into the economy, right? So she knew once again, once she had just the capital for the investments for her stock and the cart, she could then make money. Right? She didn't forever need more grants to sustain that cart. She just needed it for startup capital. Here's the catch. The funding source has their own priority of what they want to support and fund. Your organization's need and outcome needs to align with their priority to give funding, right? So let's talk about a funding priority example. And in our case here, it was the UN organization, the United Nations organization. The United Nations organization wanted to fund areas to reignite the local economy. So right there, we were aligned. So that is a small example of how you align need and outcome with funders' need and their outcomes as well. So to kind of move on from that story and just kind of follow my trend here, like my trajectory was shortly after Indonesia, I moved outside of DC and worked for a grant writing firm that had online clients all over the world. This was back in 2006, so it was very innovative during those times. And what I learned at the grant writing firm was that grant writing is a framework that needs to be driven from the organization. And I had unintentionally done that with her request because I was looking at the needs and I was looking at the outcome and I was connecting it to the priority of the funder's outcome and needs. But then to get that training on how to actually prepare a grant template, what questions to ask the nonprofit you're working with, how to write a grant budget, and all of that gave me structure. And having structure in your grant writing is the biggest shift that has helped me with more than 1,000 grant writers that I've trained is to have grant writing structure. At the very basic, grant writing includes some or all of the following. Research, meaning you also need citations, sources, testimonials, etc. That needs to support the need. Also, information about the organization in general. And sometimes this could include board structure, financials, and more. For me, and for my first initial grant I ever wrote, it was more about her as an individual. You also need to have objectives and goals in your grant, timelines, budget, and financial capacity. And while a lot of these things may sound very huge and big and only with big organizations, even for an individual applying for a grant, I had to talk about these things, right? Once again, the need, there wasn't other access to capital. She had lost it during the tsunami, all of her supplies and her cart. Information about the organization, who she was, right? She's a member of this community. Timelines, we need to get that as soon as we can get, a month out. We can order these supplies right now. They'll come in within this time. We'll get the cart from this area. It'll come in this time. What is the budget? She needs $500. That's the cost of all the materials and the stock. What is the financial capacity? She's been doing this before. She's managed money. Her business had made in the past X amount per month, right? So even if you're thinking, well, Holly, that's only $500, you can still say this and it doesn't have to take many, many pages, but it's including those concepts of that structure. Altogether, grant writing is writing that helps connect money and mission. And from my experience is the woman in the chair. So if you guys really watch Spider-Man, he's like, I'm the man in the chair. We are the woman in the chair kind of job because there's 82% of us that are women that are grant writers, where all you need to be a grant writer is a computer, the internet nowadays, and training. Back in the day, it could have just been paper, like we had applications we used to mail in, but now it's so much easier with the internet, but you also need training. I've been able to write grants all around the world as a side hustle and as a main agency because of those three things. If you can imagine helping causes you care about get funding, just like I help my friend, while you also make money, then grant writing is for you. You don't have to live in the United States. You don't have to have a grant writing degree or certification. You don't have to be an excellent writer that got all A's in college or in high school. You don't have to have English as your first language or be good at math to be a great grant writer. In August 2025, we have more than 250 students in our programs, the Freelance Grant Writer Academy and the Grant Professional Mentorship. And many are stay-at-home moms, retiring or leaving from nonprofit jobs or other corporate jobs, former teachers, lawyers, politicians, social workers, etc. Some are still in college. Some never went to college. Some are living outside of the United States. Some have different first languages other than English. Some failed their math classes in school, and some didn't do well in English class. But what they do have in common, they're passionate about causes in the world. They want flexibility in their schedules. They maybe want to work from home if they're looking at this as a freelance route, although you can be a grant writer inside an organization and have it as a job as well. Of course, they also want financial stability to do this as a job or as a freelancer, or to get a promotion because they've added this structure and this skills to their tool belt. So all in all, I really want you all to think about there is a structure for grant writing, and what it is, it's connecting money and mission. All right, you are a liaison of sorts, and nearly everyone that I've ever talked to that is a grant writer has never set out intentionally to become a grant writer. Just like me, they've just fallen into it and found their passion. Make sure you go to grantwritingandfunding.com for more information about all of our programs, our resources, and to join our newsletter. All right, make sure you subscribe for more information just like this.